So today we celebrate the feast of Pentecost. We go back in time over 2,000 years ago to that day when God sends the Holy Spirit upon the disciples to empower them to carry on the gospel Jesus preached after Jesus ascended to heaven. Now, Pentecost was a new beginning. It was a big day. It was a start of something new. A day filled with hope. New hope. Now, 22 years ago, I celebrated my first Mass. And guess what? I celebrated my first Mass as a newly ordained priest on the feast of, you got it right, on the feast of Pentecost, June 1st, 2001, at St. Joseph's Church in Auburn, Massachusetts. And Deacon Chris was not even married then. That's how long ago it was. Now, it was a big day, a new beginning, a start of something new. I am a priest now. Wow. Amazing. I just celebrated my first Mass. I can't believe it. You see, I first felt the calling to be a priest when I was in 4th grade, growing up in the communist Poland. And here I am celebrating my first Mass in United States of America, in the Worcester Diocese, and nobody knows how to pronounce Worcester, in Massachusetts. Who would have thought that that would ever be possible? Now, it was a wonderful day. And I have so many great memories of that day. My twin brother Peter and my uncle came from Poland to celebrate with me. My friends were there. Father Larry Esposito, who was the pastor at that time, Father Trainer, Father Tim Brewer, Father Dennis O'Brien, who was my best friend and mentor. I love the idea on that day of being a priest. It was my childhood dream, and I still do. I still do. Now, Father Jim Houston, another friend of mine, preached at my first Mass. He forgot his notes as usual, so he had to improvise and speak from memory. But he is an experienced priest, and he did a wonderful, wonderful job. He spoke of the Holy Spirit as this. Holy Spirit as a goose. I know. I did not know that in the Northern Europe, or across the Northern Europe, the popular image for the Holy Spirit is either a goose or a duck. You find it strange too, don't you? Now, we often think of the Holy Spirit as a dove, Jesus' baptism, or a breath. Today's gospel, Jesus breathes the Holy Spirit upon the apostles, or a paraclete, or an advocate, or tongues of fire that appeared over the disciples on the day of Pentecost, today's first reading. But a goose or a duck? Not particularly my favorite, unless on a plate in a nice restaurant. They chase you. As they fly, they make noise, unlike doves that fly quietly. Geese or ducks will even bite you if needed. They will protect their own fearlessly, though. They make noise to warn you of danger. So in that sense, I have to agree. There is a lot about a goose and a duck that makes perfect sense. There are some wonderful attributes that can tell us something about who the Holy Spirit is. Now, the dove has a reputation for gentleness and calmness. The wild goose will attack if it feels threatened. It's wild and untamed. In the same way, the Celtic believers in the British Isles believe that the Holy Spirit is unpredictable and upsetting the status quo, making noise when needed. And we see that even in today's first reading, the Holy Spirit comes as a noise. And suddenly there came from the sky a noise like a strong driving wind and filled the entire house. So, what best represents the Holy Spirit? Well, on one hand, the Holy Spirit is gentle as a dove. He can come silently, planting the seeds of wisdom in our hearts in a quiet way. On the other hand, the Holy Spirit is sometimes rambunctious as a goose or a duck, wresting you from set ways, disturbing the status quo, making noise, injecting the fire of love where there is injustice. In the final analysis, the Holy Spirit is a mystery. However, through metaphors and images, we can learn something about that mystery. Sometimes the Holy Spirit will call you to be like a dove, peaceful and gentle, because that's what's needed. Other times when needed, to be like a goose and make noise and to challenge the status quo. Sometimes it will come to you and kindle the fire of love in your heart, because that's what you need at that moment. Other times, it will be your advocate and protector when you feel weak and you need defense. Sometimes the Holy Spirit will be like a breath and breathe new life in you, because that's what you need at that moment. Sometimes it will ask you to clack like a goose or quack like a duck. But always, not sometimes, always, as Deacon Chris suggested 2 weeks ago, the Holy Spirit will be there for you and for me as a friend who knows you well, a friend on whom you can count no matter what, ready to give you what you need at that moment. And it may be the gift of wisdom, maybe the gift of understanding, because that's what you need. Maybe the gift of courage, because you are afraid of something. Maybe the gift of counsel, or the gift of faith. Because that is what friends do.